Hi there. I'm thrilled to be here today to host this panel on addressable TV for every pay TV operator. How do we achieve it? My name's Katie Jones. I'm the Commercial Director for Europe, Middle East and Africa over at Beeswax, and I'm joined by a panel of experts here, so we can, and I'm really looking forward to digging into this topic with you all today. So I'd love to ask my panelists just to introduce themselves and their business, and then just tell us a little bit about themselves. I'm going to start with you, Jesse, if I can.
Yeah, you can. Jesse Robbers from the Netherlands. I'm a senior business consultant at TNO Research. Our organization is doing research, standardization, and product development in the field of high-tech media, telecom, and much broader. I have a background at KPN, what is called Red Bee Media again, and Amsterdam Internet Exchange, which is one of the biggest internet exchanges in the world, and was one of the founders of the IPTV product of KPN, built different OTT platforms, end-to-end content chains, and was involved in the end-to-end traffic flows for internet.
Brilliant. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here today. Gert, can I pass over to you?
Yes, sure. Gert Marian. I'm working with Proximus, who is the incumbent telecom operator in Belgium. Next to telecom service, we also have TV services already since 2005. And over the last few years, I've been working in innovation on that TV part, mainly looking at addressable TV. Product which is fully launched now at Proximus. So yeah. Hence my presence, I think, in this panel.
Definitely. I know there's a lot of people who are joining specifically to hear some more from you on those innovations. Scott, are you there? Can I hand to you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Curie. I'm the VP of Advertising and Data at Cinemedia. Cinemedia is a software provider to the TV industry, and our technology is in around 1 in 4 pay TV homes across the globe. And my background is in pay television, so I used to run TV for Virgin Media, and I've been doing a couple of the OTT startups in the last few years, so very familiar with pay TV right the way through to all forms of video.
Brilliant. Well, it's great to have all three of you joining me today. As a reminder, that the panel topic is really to talk about is addressable TV for every paid TV operator, and how do we achieve that? So, I'd really love to start off by hearing from each of you on, will addressable advertising generate enough new money to feed an expanded value chain? And that's going to include pay TV operators as well as content owners. I wondered, Scott, would you start us off on that?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, I mean, I guess I have a fairly global view of this, because what we do with all of our pay TV partners is a number of them are currently trying to find a way to create this opportunity in the market. And so I have the luxury of being close to quite a few details on different business cases, and a historical role that I had at Virgin Media when I ran TV. We battled with this exact challenge all along, and I think the answer is it has to be yes, right? Because the kind of way that advertising has historically been run, with the impact of digital coming along and lots of money shifting around in the market, what we are seeing is lots of opportunities with these addressable TV platforms to start to take money from markets where historically it wouldn't have access to those types of advertisers. So, the very easy use case is print revenues moving into digital because the capability exists in the digital platforms, but TV can't access it. So, there's a clear opportunity there, and not only that, but within broadcast channels, some of those smaller channels that they don't get a look because of the way that they're measured. So with an addressable TV solution, you're bringing more value to those channels as well, and we're seeing that across all of the conversations that we're having. So I think, yeah, absolutely, and all forecasts say that there is money. Whether or not it's huge and quick is to be seen.
And Hit, what has been your experience as you've moved to this addressable offering? Has it been generating new money for Proximus?
Yeah, well, we have basically started from day one that we started with television. We thought about, well, this allows for personalization, for addressing our customers using our data. Now, it took quite some time before we went from content recommendations towards addressable TV product. Now, we kind of launched end of last year, I think, when we started signing the first contracts with broadcasters here in Belgium. And it started pretty good, but then Corona struck and all the advertising market was impacted. So yeah, we really think that there is a good business case for this, and both for operators as for broadcasters, for the sales houses. Like Scott said, you can you enable TV to bring back some of the money that went to digital, because addressable is going to allow you to do that. Now it's a new way of counting. There is a new currency also. It's CPM based model, so the market will have to adapt. The market will have to adapt to this new way of measuring things. Yeah, but definitely, yeah, I think there is a good future for this.
And yes, so how do you see it in the Netherlands?
I totally agree to Gert and Scott that there is potential market for addressable TV, but it's now time to move on. I think all the technological building blocks are there. There are a lot of business cases built to make it up and running, but especially if you look into the Dutch market, cooperation is missing between operators and broadcasters, and they would all like to have the piece of the pie. They all want to have the lead on such a chain, and that makes it difficult to come to a joint proposition in competition with all the other parts in the addressable TV market. And it's now time to move on.
Yes, I'd love to. Oh, please go ahead.
I was just about to say it's interesting because in the time that I've been around, that exact challenge is between broadcast and operators. When we tried to do it about 7 or 8 years ago, it was really difficult because the appetite to share any revenue was just not there. But I think as time's progressed, you can see the money bleeding away into different places, and I think those attitudes are now changing. And in some cases, I'm even seeing things where platform operators are saying, we now have to do this just to compete with digital because our broadcast revenues are now coming down and digital is becoming more powerful. And if we don't do this, then we can't even equal the equivalent CPMs that we used to have in TV. So I think the timing is really coming home now.
Yeah, it's a sort of question that you just have to do it. But I'm really intrigued to dig into this piece on collaboration a little bit more. I'd love to kind of ask what the benefits of pay TV operators sharing an addressable platform. In the UK here we have Sky and Virgin Media with AdSmart. Yes, so you brought up collaboration. Do you think this is a way to scale in other markets?
I think the cooperation is crucial to scale up in the markets, but it starts also, especially if looking for the Dutch market, also within the internal market here. So the operators have their own ideas. The different broadcasters which are competing with each other have their own idea. There is some cooperation between the smaller linear TV channels coming up, but they're still focusing from the broadcast perspective and not from the operator perspective. And if they are really find a way to cooperate there, then they have a strong fist in the potential advertising market, which they are now missing.
Yeah. You will need to cooperate. The way that it started in Belgium was an operator-initiated event, Addressable TV. So the main two operators, us and our competition, we both started in our own playing field to construct a platform which enabled addressable. Which means that our platforms are not the same. We are the DSL provider. They are providing it via cable, so the technology used to trigger events and things like that is not the same. So that basically is a small issue because broadcasters need to adapt to both platforms. But on the other hand, it also made sure that we have something in Belgium. So today in Belgium, we have certainly in the north, we have two operators who are enabling addressable TV. We have proven it, we have shown it to the broadcasters, and afterwards the broadcasters came on board. Now what we are doing today is we are looking at kind of standardization on a technical enabling level. When you go, for example, if you want to go to a brand and say, look, you can do addressable TV advertising over two different TV operators, that means that the audience that you are targeting has to be the same in both operators. There has to be the same name, there has to be the same value that is behind it. For an example, if you want to target young families with a dog, well, that has to mean the same with both, with all the platforms. A young family cannot mean family up to 23 and a family up to 30 years in the other platform. It all has to be the same. So it's important that alignment on that is done. Yeah. Now in other markets, I have seen that the initiative is coming more from consortiums, and what I see there is that it goes really slow because it's very hard to align both telcos and broadcasters or sales houses on the same principles. And everything comes from where is your part in this new value chain. In advertising, the telcos or the pay TV platforms, like you can also call them, they didn't really have a part in the value chain. Now that comes in because they have data, they have the ability, the technical ability to replace ads. But they're also doing that to their direct customers. So they are really concerned, definitely Proximus is really concerned about the quality, not only the quality in video and audio that we are ingesting, but also the quality of the advertising. We don't want to, we want to give relevance to our customers. Yeah? So in defining the segments, it's really important that you make sure that there is value there. On the technical alignment, yeah, it would be great if all platforms could use exactly the same technology, the same standards, but due to the inherent differences between cable and DSL or IPTV, that's already not that easy. And also there are a lot of ad decisioning or ad management platforms out there, which all run in a different manner. So also there you also have to try to align.
Hitachi, it's a really good point, and I wanted to ask a little bit more about the technology side of things.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone dialed in knows that HBB TV are developing an addressable TV solution with the backing of broadcasters. I'm intrigued to hear from the panelists around what they think. Is there a role for HBB TV ad tech in the pay TV domain?
Well, there might be a role for it. In Belgium, there's none. We're not running any HBB TV. We run it directly via our set-top boxes, and we and our competition, we have enabled the ingest in our set-top boxes based on normal SCUTI standards. So there's no HBB TV in Belgium. Maybe in other countries it might be. Yeah, it might be.
Yes, sir, Scott.
I think the challenge with HBB TV is that it's like what's the almost linked to the previous question about collaboration on platforms. You've got this control of inventory dynamic in every market on who's in control of the advertising and the style of the advertising. So when you've got a broadcaster platform like Sky and Virgin, the difference between the two is that Sky have a channels business, so they have salespeople and they have an established footprint. So they use Virgin's platform for scaling their own AdSmart product, which is a no-brainer. And Virgin couldn't really do that on their own because they don't have the inventory. When you shift into the kind of broadcaster spaces, they're looking at, well, how do I get distribution and how do I do advertising? And HBB TV is obviously a way of doing it. but it's really difficult, and the spec is still evolving, and the capability of doing linear ad replacement is still evolving, and it's not quite there yet from what I've seen in terms of the quality of the way the ads are spliced and all the workarounds that have had to be done. It's still got some time and some development to go. So I think, yes, there is a role, but it needs to evolve if it's going to be scaled.
I agree and disagree, Scott, with this. I think the standardization HBB TV is ready to pick up and to implement there. But I agree with you that the process around it and the managing of the end-to-end chain is difficult because people are traditionally thinking from the existing broadcast chain, and that is blocking how we organize things nowadays. Especially also in the OTT domain, in the IPTV domain, there are fresh new build setups in the chain, and that makes it more easy to build on. And especially with HBB TV, if you thinking from a traditional way of implementing, then there are a lot of challenges to solve, which is unnecessary in our opinion.
I mean, we're solving these challenges. They're really, we're looking at old set-top boxes that have been around in the market for a long time. They've got really limited technical capability, low memory, no hard drives, barely any connectivity. And we've been solving those problems and bringing the solution to some of those more fragmented markets. So I completely sympathise with the HBB TV challenge. It's just it's definitely a timing thing, and there has to be many of them that work and are supported in the market for it to be worth doing, I guess. So let's watch it and see what happens over time.
I think there's an interesting point for the title of this panel. I think making is addressable TV for every pay TV operator, and how do we achieve that? I'm interested to ask, what realistic options do broadcasters have if they want to avoid pay TV partnerships? Are we looking at connected TV with ACR, HBB TV enabled, or relying on streaming apps with broadcaster controlled ad tech? I mean, there seems lots of different ways to go. How are you each thinking about the different options?
The difficulty is, of course, that the operators they would like to have the ownership there, and if they're not moving, and where we started this discussion with cooperation there, they have only one piece of the chain, where the OTT providers have the possibility to go into a bit pipe and to deliver the services. They need to rely on everything that's at the back of an operator in cooperation with the broadcaster and the content owner. And if they don't cooperate there, then they become really the bit pipe. Cooperation again is here crucial to move on. And if you can cooperate with your competitor on operational level, like Gert is explaining for the Belgian market, if you can cooperate with the broadcasters, which also have their own strategy, then you would be successful and can be successful there, and you can make them fist in that area.
I'm going to sort of turn the question around in a way, because I don't think broadcasters should be avoiding pay TV. I think the ecosystem needs to be more supportive of what broadcasters are trying to achieve. So, the benefit of pay TV is scale, and you bring, in our situation, tens of millions of set-top boxes are just sat there waiting for addressable TV advertising to be deployed. And the thing that's holding it back is no longer the technology, because we've solved many of those challenges. It's the collaboration, and I think creating a technology that allows the broadcaster to distribute their channels as well as create advertising inventory around addressable spots is it's an inventory versus data play, and it's about who retains control of the inventory and the sell, and it's about the data that you can exchange in terms of valuing it and increasing its value, and it's about the measurement. So the best form of achieving this is to collaborate, rather than to try and keep going around. And but I've been around in this space long enough to know that's easier to say than it is to do. But that has to be the quickest way of achieving it. And everybody needs to drop their historical barriers and issues, because and they all know now that Google are rising in the background, and Facebook is rising in the background, and before you know it, it's just sort of run past you. So I think the industry needs to come together.
Yeah, agree.
Well, that's already done since a long time, that they run past the broadcasters.
Yeah.
So
not everywhere.
Not everywhere,
No.
okay. But it's a question. Yeah, there has to be a business case and there has to be volume, because when talking from a TV operator point of view, it's not cheap to create such an environment that enables that ad insert. If you want to do it in OTT technology, where you can do everything from the backend, from the cloud, that's easier. But the moment that you really go in the place where the volume is, and that's the linear broadcast environment, you don't distribute it via unicast, because that's not scalable. You do a sort of multicast. At that moment, you will have to enable a lot of things in your set-top box. And as we all have an historical set-top box inventory, that means you cannot only enable it on one set-top box, you have to enable it on different ones. And they all have to work with the same streams. They all have to be capable of doing seamless ad insert, which is not that easy. That's what the experience learned. So there's quite some investment to be done at the operator who is distributing the signals. But I think you have to go to a set-top box, high volume, high quality video on the main screen, because there are the eyeballs.
The question is if you stick to the set-top box, or that you move to a sort of operator app which is standardized in the TV set already available there, because then it makes it much more easier to make that step in that direction and makes it more cost efficient. But it takes time.
Yeah, it takes time, and you will always have the biggest audience. If you're a set-top box operator like we are, the biggest audience is on set-top boxes, and that's the thing you need. You need volume.
Yeah, and there's millions of them just sat there, and they won't go away quickly. I remember doing forecasts for set-top box to be dying in 2010, and I still see no difference in the volume.
I mean, it's actually a really good segue into the thing I wanted to ask next is sort of how realistic is it for an average size pay TV provider to implement their own addressable solution? I think at Beeswax we work with a few of at the larger end of the scale, but I'm really keen to hear from you or each, if it needs an internal sales house, data scientists, and the list goes on, or is it something that's achievable for an average-sized pay TV provider?
Well, data scientists, you have them on board anyway. If you don't have them on board, you have an issue. So you have to have them on board anyway. Sales house, do you need a sales house? No, you don't. In Belgium, it's the broadcasters who are doing the sales. They have their sales houses, and they are doing the sales of the ads. So you don't need a sales house. We have one at Proximus called Skynet. The advantage of having that one is that it brings a lot of knowledge into the system, into the environment. So we had a lot of skilled people who could help us develop, and who played a major role in the development of the product. But it's all about, it's a big investment. It's a big integration. It's a big IT system. It's a big investment on the video level that you have to do to enable your system to deliver the ads. And if you are a small operator, I don't know if it justifies the cost at that moment to create that environment, because if your volumes are not there, your CPM will not be there, and the investment probably kills your business case. The thing you can do there is collaborate, because a small operator normally works in a country where there are other operators, maybe small or bigger. And I think there it might be interesting for them, if they are just starting to collaborate one way or another, to use the same technology, or use technology of broadcasters.
Scott, yes?
Yeah. I think it depends on who owns the inventory, and even let's assume an average size operator doesn't have inventory as good, so they have to collaborate with the broadcasters, and that there's a number of ways you can do that, but the logical one is that they control their own inventory, and you're just making it available as part of a bigger pot. So if you take HBB TV and an OTT service, you know, those broadcasters might end up having to run inventory in lots of different places. But if you can enable it in your platform, you know, we're seeing that with loads of different customers at the moment, and they're not all tier ones. We have a bunch of medium-sized customers who are desperate to get into this space because they can see that there's an opportunity to do it. But it comes down to, as Gert said, you know, some of them might have 10 different set-top boxes, and you have to get every single one of those set-top boxes to perform and do the job. Otherwise, you don't have the scale. And that's why what we're doing at Cinemedia is we're creating almost a really refined cookie cut model. We've been doing this for 10 years plus, and we've really been able to almost productize the ad splicing, the ad delivery and insertion. We've got that really perfected actually with a few hundred engineers. We're trying to bring that down so that you can enable the average size operators to deploy something, you know, more easily and cost effectively. And then it definitely comes down to how much the data and the measurement also add to the equation, because, you know, depending on what type of operator it is, if it's a cable operator, yes, they're connected all the time. If it's a satellite operator, how many of those boxes can report on ad views and measurement? How do you know, how does that side of it all fit together?
That's an important one. All that measurement and data, yeah, it's at the core of your product.
It really defines how targeted and addressable your solution can become, because you have a small representation of your overall TV base in a panel. That's how you measure your addressable ads. If you've got a two-way connected platform, you can measure it like digital.
Yeah.
So that's a big factor in the business case as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think also that's one of the unique selling points for the model, because the data is there, and especially with all the new technologies about anonymized data with multi-part computation, etc., etc. You can build new propositions there. You can use the data, translate it to new advertisement models or targeted groups, etc. I think that is a key to success for the upcoming period also.
That's very interesting, and actually this leads me quite nicely to my next question. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say it outright, because I think we've already used the swear words of Facebook and Google in this conversation. But as Android TV-based operator set-top boxes are sort of providing a gateway to the Google ad tech ecosystem, including programmatic and DAI. How do you feel about the arrival of the digital tech giant into this space?
I think the tech drive is there really important. I think it's building up the ecosystem, and it's driving new business models and new technologies there. The good thing is that if new parties will enter, others will drive also to new technology, new propositions and solutions there. The pity is that a little bit of the cooperation that is necessary there to work close together to find an alternative solution there, that's a little bit far away nowadays, and that's where the traditional industry is lacking their responsibility, and it's missing their window of opportunity at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's making everybody think about doing this now. It's making it all move forward and become progressive. The challenge with something like that will be always around who's in control. And, you know, that's not unique to advertising with Google. That's, you know, if you take Android TV, there are certain things you have to embrace from Google. And if you're comfortable doing that, then fine. But I think, you know, this is it's an area that is also, I think, I would say it's yet to be proven in linear TV with Google as well.
I mean, it's interesting to think about it from the data perspective too. Sorry.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you can never rule anything out with Google. They are a machine, so I mean, you have to respect them. But I still think it's a long way to go to prove linear addressable on Google platform.
Well, we are doing that. So our latest set-top box is an Android TV set-top box. But we distribute linear in the way we do it on all our other set-top boxes, and we do addressable TV also in the way we do it on the other set-top box. So there is not really direct an impact for that in that domain. Now, if you talk about those companies and you talk about addressable, in say they're not really matching, because why are broadcasters going to addressable? Well, it's mainly to bring some revenue that went to digital video back into their pockets, and that means taking it away from Google and Facebook. So it's not really 100% compliant, those two stories.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
But we have with addressable TV, we have a very big advantage. When you look at brand safety, we can make sure that your content is only shown on content you want to. Fraud, there will be no click bots behind it, so we can really count what has been seen. There are quite some advantages, and also local presence. Local presence.
Well, I'm keen to talk more about what other things people are exploring or could explore. So if I asked, are there any other roads to addressable advertising on the horizon, which perhaps small as well as large pay TV operators could follow? Would you each be able to maybe recommend something we should be looking into?
Difficult question. I thought we're as a company, we're looking at all different bases to try and deliver addressable advertising, and I think because of the fragmentation in the market, you're seeing lots of different people trying to do different solutions, and we talked about most of them today. I think the big question is, what does the content distribution model look like in the future, and how are broadcasters distributing their content? And is it going via set-top boxes? Is it going via connected TVs? Is it going via connected apps on set-top boxes? And therefore that in a way dictates to some degree how the addressable solutions will pan out, because if broadcast linear starts to tail off and it's delivered over IP, then who's to say that can't be delivered via a different mechanism? So I don't have any kind of crystal ball ideas, but we do, as a business, we have a whole innovations process going at the moment, which is looking at exactly how we think about solutions for this.
Wouldn't it be great? You mentioned, Scott, a lot of distribution models targeting very often the same customer. Wouldn't it be great that you could manage a campaign across all those distribution platforms?
Oh, I've heard that question so many times.
No, but you don't have to answer. I'm just reflecting towards the future. You don't have to answer. But wouldn't it be great to be able to do that? Totally. And wouldn't it be great for a brand or for an advertiser that they could reach their audience independent of where they are? Are they on operator A? Or are they on operator B? Not important. Which channel do they watch? Not important. I just want to make sure that my ad has been shown 5 times to that audience.
And in a quality environment.
A quality environment, but it can. It depends what you call quality, of course. All our TV environments are quality at Proximus, but no. On the big screen, on the small screen, it would be great if you could mix and match and deliver your campaigns in that way to the right audience, because that's what we're doing. We're talking about audience buying. It's really segments that you want to target, and that might be a future path.
What do you think about the measurement side? Because that's often kind of we're talking about how you get ads to people all the time, but there's the measurement side of things, as being able to prove delivery, and that kind of old way versus new digital way. How do you see that in your world and at Proximus? Is that not an issue? Or?
That's not an issue. No, we can measure. So for every ad that we replace, we know how much of the ad has been seen. Did somebody see 50%? Did somebody see the whole ad through? So we can perfectly measure that, and we can do that on all our platforms. So measurement that's also one. That's what I say. That's one of the big advantages. Also, there will be no fraud in our system. We measure what you see.
And yes, do you want to speak to this a little bit from the TNO perspective?
I think if you're looking in the future about addressable TV, one of the biggest challenges what we're also looking at in now is, and it was earlier all discussed here, about unicast versus multicast at the moment. So the majority of the traffic and the live linear TV channels are now distributed by multicast protocols to the households, especially in the DSL fiber domain. But if you can move much more to unicast systems, you can do much more with targeted advertising, personalized advertising, etc., etc. That's a challenge in the backbones nowadays, and that's what we're also focusing on now. How can we solve these issues, scale capacity with cloud, edge computing, and everything around it, to make this more efficient than it is nowadays?
We have just 2 minutes left of this panel, and I really want to ask a final question. But if I can ask each of you to keep it very brief this time, so we can finish up in the right time that we have allocated. But what is the main priority for broadcasters when they're considering whether to make their inventory available for addressable advertising via a platform partner? What should they really keep in mind?
Okay,
yes.
I'll go first. I'm a platform. We're a platform operator. What should be their first priority, and what is their first priority? It's at revenue, and they really need to make sure that they can, they can earn more. But it's simple to say that they earn more by doing addressable, and the biggest example in something everybody in the whole world is watching, I think, is what Sky has been doing in the UK. And they have really shown that there is a big advantage, that there is extra revenue, that there are advertisers who were previously not on TV who are coming to TV. So this addressable is offering a way to shift money that went to digital to shift it back to TV. And I think that's a very important thing. But they also need to know that they cannot retain all the money there, because there's a new player in the ecosystem, which is not Facebook and which is not Google, and who is not working against them, but who is working with them, and that's the operators. And they also need to earn something when doing this.
Yeah, I think the question for them is the inventory that you can achieve by doing the partnership worth the costs to deliver it, in amongst everything else that you're doing? And are you willing to prioritize the platform in order to expand your inventory pool and pay a percentage of that into the ecosystem? That's a big question, right?
That's that cost of collaboration.
It's the cost of collaboration. Is the data that you get from the platform worth, and the inventory availability that you get, worth the cost? I think increasingly that's coming closer.
I think it's important to start now, not wait, because it's now the window of opportunity. All the technical building blocks are there. Find the right partners, find the right cooperation, and don't forget that you have gold in your hands because of the data, as Gert explained, and especially with multi-part computation, it's also you can use it enormously to deliver the data that has generated by the users to the advertisement agencies and etc.
And something very important for the operators: everything we do, or everything you will do, you need to have a consent from the customer. Yeah. Everything needs to be GDPR compliant, and that's that's a very big attention point, and a lot of effort is going to go in that environment for the operators.
Well, I think those are some brilliant takeaways for everyone who's joined us today. So focus on the money. It's clear that there is new incremental revenue that can come into the space. I think thinking about the new partners that you might need and making sure weighing up that partnership across data, across platforms, and the time and the cost that comes with it. Get started right away. There's no time to waste. But keep in mind the legal requirements and compliance above all else, because otherwise the risk is is too big. So I think with those top tips, it's just left for me to say thank you to each of our panelists who've really shared such valuable insights with us today, and wishing you all stay safe and healthy. Thank you.